Welcome to episode 14 of Diary of a Private Investigator. My name is Nathan and I am the owner of Dolos Investigations based in Sheffield and Doncaster in the UK. Okay, thanks for returning. If you are returning, if it's your first one, have you found us via TikTok? That'd be great to listen to me. I'm obviously going to talk about TikTok a little bit, one of the segments that I've got. Today's show is a little bit different. I'm going to use one of my favoritist, because I like to make words up as well. One of my favoritist words out there, smorgasbord. Good old Swedish word there. It's a smorgasbord of stories today. Again, we're back to my normal self where I just freestyle it and just talk about things as we go along. So today's show, we have had a listener's question in from Danny. He wants to know about the process serving side of PI. It's kind of PI, it's kind of not. My business involves lots of different things, which we'll talk about in this show. We're also going to talk about tracing people, which sounds dull, but I'm going to make it interesting by talking about a job that I've done recently, and how that panned out, and the pitfalls of tracing people, and also the benefits of tracing people. I've had a good news story, and then finally we'll probably just throw in a new segment called Moan of the Month. I was expecting a bit of backlash 2 episodes ago when I swore on the podcast, but I got no comments regarding the use of the F-bomb. So I'm going to take it that the audience that are listening to me are kind of on the same level as myself. So I'll go down that one. So getting into the podcast, I've had a listener question from Danny. I spoke to Danny about a year ago. He rang me up because he does listen to the podcast and he wanted some advice. So I gave him some of that free gratis advice. And he is an avid listener. And I do know that Danny has left a review on the podcast. So if you are listening to this podcast now and you haven't left me a review, I've had a quick look and I've noticed that they've started to dry up a little bit. It is easy. Please, if you're listening to the podcast, just jump on, click the 5-star review button. And if you've got the time, just leave a few lines of as to why you like it and why it's great. If you think it's rubbish, just don't waste your time giving me a review. Just leave it. I only like positive reviews. If you also want to send a question to me, I will answer it. I do read all the emails, questions, or stories to diaryofaprivateinvestigator@gmail.com. And finally, I'm almost turning into a professional podcast here where I have a set script and a set introduction before I go into my stories, just to keep you listening. Or unless, like me, when you listen to other people's podcasts, you just fast forward the first 5 minutes of BS and get to the crunch of the matter. You can sponsor me or buy me a coffee, as I always bang on about. I love me some coffee. I've already had me large latte extra shot on the way down. If you want to sponsor the show or purchase my next coffee, that is buymeacoffee.com/DOAPI, Diary of a Private Investigator. All donations are greatly received. It goes towards the production of the show. And the final bit of blob is this show is being sponsored by Blue Husky, BLUHUSKI, Blue Husky. They make the equipment that we as private investigators use, and a bit more about those in the middle of the show. So, if you have found this show via TikTok, thank you for listening. I'm not just a TikTok expert. In fact, I'm not an expert in any way, shape or form when it comes to TikTok, which I can see Adam laughing in the background now because he's had to show me how to use TikTok and how to do it. So, bit of a story regarding TikTok. So obviously I do TikTok, or Adam makes TikToks that go out there with a view to, obviously, you find me on TikTok, you then start listening to the podcast, you listen to the podcast, you hopefully get the impression that I know what I'm doing in the private investigation world, and then hopefully you come and hire me at some time in the future. So that's the business model. So Adam sort of says to me, what you need to do with your TikTok, you need to engage with your audience and sort of read all the comments and where appropriate, reply if you obviously like it, or if it's a negative comment, I choose not to reply because it just goes down a road of you can't argue with it with an idiot, really, can you? So I just choose to ignore those comments. So I went onto the home page thing or whatever it's called when you get TikToks thrown at you, and I'm sort of scrolling through. And clearly there's algorithms on TikTok, so it knows what you're looking at or what you look at for the longest time. And then it starts feeding you more of those particular TikToks. So typical bloke. I like martial arts, so obviously you watch a bit of martial arts and all of a sudden you're getting a load of martial art feeds. But something really, really weird happened. So I'm just going through for the first time on TikTok, scrolling along. And I get this housewife lip syncing to either a meme or a song, just like dancing. So I'm watching it, I'm thinking, what the hell is this? Why do people watch this shite? So I'm watching it and I'm thinking, all right, very interesting, whatever. So obviously now TikTok thinks, oh, you like dancing housewives lip syncing in the kitchen. So I start getting a few more and I'm like, and I'm still thinking, this is just like weird and wonderful. But equally at the same time, I'm thinking, why have you got more likes and followers than I have when I'm trying to be a sensible broadcaster? And you're just dancing in your kitchen. So all right, so it goes on, and then I get one through, and it's I'd say housewife. I'm just trying to paint the visual picture for you, so you can sort of envisage what I'm watching on my screen. So then I get a picture of a housewife dancing in a kitchen, and clearly it's quite a cold day, shall we say? So I'm watching it, and I'm thinking, okay. It's a bit cold on that particular recording day, but there you go. And obviously TikTok think, well, obviously you like that kind of thing. So what we'll do now is we'll send you a housewife in a kitchen doing a lip sync on a cold day with no bra on. And I'm watching it and I'm thinking, why do people watch these videos? Who wants to watch a video where somebody's lip syncing? I'll leave that one to work out the punchline on that one. So anyway, moving. So it was funny in my head when I said it. So yeah, so obviously that's my professional account. So I'm trying to. I had to ask my daughter how to not watch certain things, and she's like, "Well, if you press a button, you can just say you're not interested." So I'm now obviously actively trying to not watch women dancing in the kitchen and getting back onto martial arts and stuff. So that's by the by. Anyway, on another tangent, so we obviously put these TikToks out and people watch them, people like them, people comment, and sometimes you get the odd negative sort of comment. And so, obviously, like I said, I choose not to answer them in any way, shape or form, but obviously people have got the time in their life to make negative comments, which is fine. And so I'm reading through one of the TikToks and at the bottom it says, "You have had other messages which, if you open, may affect your well-being." And so I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, that's a good idea, actually, because at the end of the day, TikTok's a bit of a vanity thing. It's all about numbers and likes and hearts and all that stuff. And so I get why it's affecting the young people, and I get why it's affecting people's mental health, because if I put a video out and it bombs, I look at it and go, oh, that was a good video. Why is it bombed? And then you'll put another video out and it gets thousands and thousands of likes. And obviously I feel good about myself and think I'm contributing towards society, and I'm as a person, I'm liked. So there's a bit of a mental health issue there, which we'll not go down today. So I read this message and it says, if you read these comments, it may affect your well-being. So guess what? I didn't open it, because why the hell should I? So my advice, guys, if you're on TikTok, you get something like that, just don't open it. If people are negative about you, you can please most of the people most of the time, but you can't please all of the people. So I didn't read it. Tangent alert, because like I said, smorgasbord today. We like a bit of smorgasbord, and I like saying it as well. Smorgas, like Skoda, smorgasbord, Skoda. Especially when you're wearing headphones as well. I can hear my own voice echoing. So, I'm going crazy. Too much coffee. Right, warning alert now. If you've got young listeners to this next bit, then you might want to just fast forward 5 minutes. You have been warned. So the way that my brain works is I'm thinking, looking at TikTok, blah, 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 negative comments. Why would you do something that you know is going to be negative to your mental health. And the way that my brain works, it went off to when I was in the cops. I've not told a cop story for a while, so I'll throw one in today. So when you are a detective, when there is a drugs overdose, that actually goes to CID to investigate, because it's obviously you need to investigate regarding where the drugs came from. Is it a bad batch? Is it a murder? It's not unknown to sort of be set up as a drugs death. So as a detective, we have to go out and investigate a drugs death. So I'm new in CID, drug death comes in. So a detective sergeant who's got to go out and assess the scene, they jump up and like, right, drugs death, I'm off. So her number 2 is like, yeah, I'll come with you, we'll go off and do it. So I'm sort of saying, I'm obviously new cop, I'll come out with you and see what it's all about. And they're like, well, you don't have to. And I'm like, no, and this is something that I need to do. I need to get the experience. So, all right, okay, so off we trot. And we get to the scene, and it's some flats, and it's the sort of second level flats, again, painting the visual picture for you. So you're walking along the sort of balcony towards the flat, and the uniformer there stood outside, and you're walking along, and if you've ever smelled death, it has a unique, overbearing, overpowerful, horrible smell. It's just horrible. And I'm walking along this balcony, and I'm like, and obviously, if you're watching me on YouTube, you can see the size of my nose. There's not much that gets past this cavity in the front of my face. So I'm walking along, and I'm thinking, God, that smells. And as you're getting closer, you're like, wow, that absolutely honks. That is proper awful smell. So you get there, and we were still a few meters away from the door. And obviously everybody then starts covering up and trying to, you can't hide the smell. By putting your hand over your mouth, shockingly, doesn't get rid of the smell. It still stinks. And it's the kind of smell that sticks to your clothes, and it sticks to the innards of your nostrils, and for hours and hours and hours, and if not days afterwards, you can still smell it. It's awful. So I'm walking up, and I get there, and obviously uniform stood there, and they're a bit pale, and they're sort of saying, look, this is, like I say, this is a bit graphic, but it's life. This person's been deceased for a number of days. And what you may or may not know is that after a number of days, obviously the body starts to decompose, hence the smell, hence the melting into the mattress that then went on. So I'm stood there listening to it and thinking, this is awful. And the detective sergeant sort of turns around and sort of said, look, we obviously need to go in, we need to examine the scene, have a look round. Do you still want to come in? And obviously I'm thinking like, yeah, I'm super keen, need to do it. And I stood there and I thought to myself, this is probably not going to be the first drugs death, the only drugs death that I'm going to come across while I'm in CID. What is the advantage of going in and putting myself under what I'm about to see and what I'm about to smell versus what I'm going to gain as a detective? And it was at that point I thought, do you know what? I don't think I actually need to go in and have a look at this deceased person and smell the smell. So I chose to withdraw. So I didn't go in. So the moral of the story, kids, is that actually, if it's bad for you, sometimes the right decision is not to bother going in. So they went in, they did what they had to do, they came out, obviously described it to me. I saw the scene photographs afterwards. Obviously, the scene photographs sort of stay with you for the rest of your life. And I was kind of just like, you know what, sometimes you don't need to do or see things like that. So yeah, that's a grim start, isn't it? That's a grim start to a podcast. That cheers you up, doesn't it? But anyway, so what I do as a private investigator, I actually have many hats within the private investigator industry. I'm also a certificated enforcement agent, which in old money is a bailiff, but it's more professionalised than what it used to be. Bailiffing used to be big hard man goes in, throws the weight around, roughy tufty, I'm going to take all your stuff off you type thing. So the government changed it all now. There's obviously a lot more education, learning, courses, etc., that you need to do to do it. And it's more about communication in this day and age. I mean, look at me, I'm not a fighter, I'm a flipping ain't. So part of my business now is I deal with various things. I deal with commercial rent arrears. I deal with forfeitures, which is when somebody's not paid the bills or they've broken part of the lease. We go in and recover the property. Obviously, I do tracing of people, and I also do traveller evictions as well, which I was going to talk about today, but I'm not going to lie, had a bit of an issue with some travellers the other day, and I thought, you know what, do I really want to talk about that? Probably not. So I'm going to park that for now. However, if you want to learn about traveller evictions or travellers or things like that, then obviously drop me an email. If you do, if you want to listen to this because you just want to listen about private investigation stuff, that's fine. We'll keep it on topic. So there's lots of things that I do, and one of those things that I do is process serving. So Danny sent a question in saying, just doing a certificate in process serving, have you got any sort of stories, advice, top tips, anything like that? So yes, I'm going to talk about process serving. Have I got any funny stories? No. He said in a right Yorkshire accent, no. No, it's not really a funny job, to be fair. So I'll talk about process serving. I'll make it, this is the educational part, the informative part, rather than the humorous part. So what is a process server? What do they do? A process server really is a glorified post person. Look at me being all politically correct. A post person. So why hire a process server? It's because we deliver legal documents to people and we make sure that there is due process, because if, for example, what kind of things do we deliver? We deliver sort of statutory demands, known as stat demands on businesses who owe money, bankruptcy petitions, orders to attend court, and divorce documents. There are numerous documents, and each kind of document has its own way of being served. If you get that wrong, it will break down the process, it will delay things, and obviously when money's involved and getting divorces involved, you need to make sure that you do things right. So we make sure all the processes are done correctly, everything is delivered in the correct manner. We do that, and also we are professional witnesses. Obviously, it helps being an ex-job, because if I have to go to court, for me, it's no issue just stand up in court and giving evidence. So we have to be able to do that as well. Sometimes the recipient will deny that they've received it. So again, as professional witnesses, we give a statement saying, no, on this time and date, it was served. Should they wear a body cam? I'm going to say it's a grey area. It's not really a grey area. No, there's no real need for you to wear one. However, there are times when, as a process server, it can get a little bit fruity. So they are good for your own protection, so you don't get assaulted. They are good to prove that the document has been served, and it's good to prove that the attitude of the recipient was obviously untoward towards yourself. Now, yeah, I'm 6'2". I sometimes go to the gym when it's warm. So I'm reasonably athletic. So I don't tend to get the confrontation. And like I said, I'm a communicator. So you talk to people in a polite yet firm manner. There are a couple of occasions where it's got a bit fruity. But it's how you talk to them, isn't it? Really, at the end of the day, you calm them down. I've already talked in the past about NVCs, non-verbal communication, like stance. Is it a fighting stance, defensive stance? If you want to listen to that, go all the way back to episode 1, where I talk about my life in the cops and whatever, when I go off on tangents and self-defense and all that kind of business. So you always need to be aware of your own safety when you're process serving, and read people's body language. There are a couple of things that you need to do a course on it. It sounds great, process serving, and for once I'm going to break with tradition and tell you what I charge. Ooh, interesting. So for a process server, I charge £110 to serve the documents, which sounds fantastic. People are going, flipping heck, that's good money. You just tip up and give them some documents. Brilliant. Yeah, it's brilliant right up until the point where you get to serve some documents that's sort of 20 miles away. You drive up, I'm gonna sound like my dad now. Yeah, got to pay for petrol money. Car don't run on itself, you know. So you got to pay for your car. Now the process servant involves 3 attempts. One of those needs to be out of hours, which is either a weekend or obviously after 6 p.m. So if they're not in the first time, it's a bit of a shoulder drop because you get there and you're knocking on the door, and then obviously as an investigator, the pros of hiring a PI to do it is that we don't just knock on doors, no answer, and then go home again. We make inquiries, so we'll make inquiries with the neighbours and what have you. Online research, we can sort of find out if it's the correct address or they're living somewhere else. There's lots of things that we do over and above just a normal process server. So you do the inquiries, you come back, and then you might have to visit again, and then you might have to visit on a third time, and then there's other things that you have to do, like leave what they call a letter of appointment, that if you've been so many times, they're still not answering, you leave them a letter, give them an opportunity, and then you have to get the court's decision as to whether you can then post the documents. So there's all sorts of things that you need to know as a process server and the correct way of doing it. So when you break it all down, if you're doing 3 visits and then eventually get to serve and it takes you 45 minutes there, 45 minutes back, doing inquiries, when you break it right down, sometimes it's brilliant. You earn £110, you drive out, you stick a letter in somebody's hand, happy days, got a good day's wage there. Sometimes you're going 3 times, numerous hours, petrol money, blah, 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 blah. It's not as good. So it's kind of what I do, but obviously it's just a bit of a bolt on to the other sort of PI sort of stuff that I get up to. One story that I have got was where somebody in an Asian couple were getting divorced, which for the Asian community, hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn here, but for the Asian community, it's quite dishonourable. Getting divorced, it's quite shameful. So this person was actively avoiding having the papers served on them. So again, you have to investigate where they are at what time. Sometimes it involves surveillance on the address to make sure that they're definitely home. So get to the address, and this time I'm wearing a body cam to prove that it's been served. Get to the door, knock on the door. The other partner opens the door. Yep, they're in the kitchen. As I walk into the house, the person sees me and goes running off. So I go running off as well. I wouldn't say chase. I was like running after him to give him the papers. So I'm running after him. I've got some divorce papers here for you. So they obviously know I'm not coming in with a knife or daft like that. And they go into a downstairs toilet. So fortunately, I get to the toilet door, open the door before it gets locked, and sort of drop the papers and sort of say, look, these are the divorce papers. This is what you're being served with. Of course, it then goes to court, and then the courts are thinking, oh, have you got the camera? Have you got the footage? And then the party that's being served with the papers is then sort of saying it was an invasion of privacy, it was an assault, it was this and that and the other. And so obviously, on the back of all that, make sure if you're doing this job that you've got public liability and indemnity insurance, because if you do get sued, if you do something slightly wrong, you obviously need the financial backup and support. So just be careful when you're dealing with people like that. You will get people who like I say, don't accept it and just throw it back at you. Once it's been served, it's been served. So again, you don't bend down and start picking the papers up, because one, you're leaving yourself open to a nice cheeky boot in the head, and two, it's actually been served. So if they choose to just throw it on the floor, then that's the look out. You just turn around, you walk away, you get in your vehicle and drive off. So that's your 101 really on process serving and what we do. It's like I say, it's a bit of a bolt on to what we do, but I'd like to think we do it better because of all the experience that we've got. So hand in glove with that is tracing, which fits nicely into Diary of a Private Investigator. Nathan, what have you been up to recently? Well, I'll tell you guys and girls what I've been up to recently. I've been doing some tracing work. So I'll start off with the good stuff, and then we'll move on to the not so good stuff. So, good news story. I received an email last month, which I put on my LinkedIn. So if you don't follow me on LinkedIn, there's another plug. Follow me on LinkedIn under my name, Nathan Hoole. You'll find me. So join me on LinkedIn. Say hi. I'm just going to read it out to you. So, hi Nathan. This is Mary. You won't remember me, but you came to my house last year on the 13th of May as an old friend, John, had asked you to find me. I just wanted to say thank you, because as a result of you putting us back in contact with each other, we are now married. Although at the time you gave me the shock of my life, you have been instrumental in changing my life completely, and for that I will be eternally grateful. I wish you every success in your future endeavours and hope that you make others as happy as you've made us. Once again, a heartfelt thank you. I'm actually getting a bit emotional about that. It's really touching, that, isn't it? So tracing people does work, and you do get good news stories from it. Showing my age here, but obviously I felt like Cilla Black. I felt like I needed to nip out and buy a hat. So that was great. So when you trace people, it does work out right. Also, last month, I had a job that started off as a trace. Can you trace our child who has given up all contact with us? They were a student, and then since finishing their degree, they've disappeared off the face of the planet, and we're concerned, we're worried about where they are. We've had no contact. Can you trace them? Yeah, no problems. So the systems that we have got, I've probably said this in the past, but I'll repeat myself. The systems that we have got, some of the systems we subscribe to, and they are for investigators only. So they're not available to Joe public. So we obviously pay for that. So there's a charge that goes out, and we do this trace. Now, the first time in 6 years since I've been doing this, it came back with no result, which is, like I said, I'm so shocked myself, I'm going to say it again. We had no result. And I'm sorry, I went back and sort of said, I don't quite know what's going off. Obviously, there's other lines that we can now pursue. Now we're talking about a physical trace where we sort of start doing doorstep inquiries. GDPR is an absolute nightmare. Again, I actually had a job the other day with a process serve in a student block, and I was just blocked at every avenue with hiding behind GDPR. It was just outrageously bad how stonewalled I got in trying to serve these documents, which I get, but equally it's frustrating. So there's things that we can do. So I'm in discussion with the parents about, well, we can do this, we can do this, we can do that. And whenever you get drip-fed information, it's always a massive red flag. There's always a reason why they're not giving you the full story at the start. Even though I've asked, I need all the information, I need everything that you've done, I need all the background. Why is this person not contacting you? There's always a reason, unless they're either being murdered, kidnapped, or I think on this occasion a cult got mentioned, which again, we live in England. I'm not too sure how many cults are out there in our country. It's not really a done thing out here. So you got to keep an open mind about all the information that you're being told. Don't ever just go, okay, that sounds good, okay. I don't anyway, because like I said, I'm ethical. So I look at everything with an open mind, get all the information. Anyway, so we start going, well, we think that this person may have been sucked into a cult and is therefore actively not contacting us. So we go down all the avenues. So long story short, this person used to be a member of a certain club, which is where the cult angle is coming from, is that this club that they were in, they've sucked them in, and that's why they're not contacting us anymore. So anyway, so we do some surveillance, and we see the person, we get the image of the person, they're laughing and joking, they're interacting with various people, there's lots of ethnic groups in this particular club. So we managed to track this person down to a club that they go to, and we're doing the surveillance, and we're watching this person, and they're interacting and they're laughing and joking with people, and all the other people are laughing and joking. And there's a mixed bag of people, old, young, new, different ethnic backgrounds, not what you'd sort of typically think that a cult would be. You kind of sort of think it attracts a certain kind of person. So again, you're there, you're watching the interactions, you're watching the people coming and going, coming from all different sort of ways of transportation and all. And you're just like, something doesn't quite fit right here. It's not going down the story that I'm being told. And so I get the imagery, and this person then gets into a car with another person, and they drive away. And so I do the follow, but I take the loss. I'm basically working on my own, which again is never ideal working on your own. But at that time, it was a case of are they there or not. So they didn't want to throw a load of people at it when at that time it was just a trace. So I take the loss at a junction. Basically, I hit a junction, and then traffic lights, blah blah blah. So they go off they go. So I report back to the parents and sort of say, this is that. However, I've got these concerns, this, that, and the other. Anyway, the parents then slip out. The person driving the car may be a safeguarding officer. And I'm like, ooh, I'm like, that is a red flag. And I'm sort of saying, well, for one, that would explain why we can't find this person if they're obviously under safeguarding. And secondly, like, why didn't you tell me that from the start? Like, what's going on? And obviously, then the more that you question, the more the investigate, a little bit, and then it's a bit of backtracking, going, well, this person's a safeguarding officer, but they're not safeguarding our child. They're just a safeguarding officer in general as a job, and so it's just coincidence that they're giving our child a lift. And you sort of like, and then. Like I said, for me, it's always about listening to the voice in the back of your head and sort of thinking, I'm just not comfortable doing this. I mean, obviously, worst case scenario. I mean, this person looks healthy, happy. You do the research into the club that they're in. It was a well-known establishment within the city in which I was working. So you do the online research. You're looking at newspaper articles. You're sort of looking at everything. And the bigger picture for me was just like, it doesn't quite sit right. And then right at the end of the conversation, where basically I'd reached the conclusion that I'm now no longer going to work for you because I don't think it fits right. There's other avenues that we can do. Now we've found that this person is fit and well and happy. We can open up communication. I don't mind acting as a mediator and making an approach, saying, look, I'm working for your parents. They want to make sure that you're all right, this, that, and the other. They didn't want to pursue that. They wanted to know where she lived. And for me, that was a bit of a no. That was a step too far. So tracing is a dangerous game. As a private investigator, we have a responsibility to the person being traced as well as to our client who we are working for. And again, this is just another example of that I won't take on work where I don't agree with it, where it's either non-ethical or possibly illegal or dangerous or anything like that. Now, and I've said times many, I lose a lot of work because I have moral standings. Oh, look at me. Oh, Nathan, you're a hero. Oh. But that's just how I am. Again, I think I've said this in the past as well. At some point, I'm going to do an episode on rogue private investigators, because there are companies out there, and I knew at the back of my head that when I turn around to them and sort of say, I'm no longer going to work for you, probably the next thing they're going to do is just pick up the phone and hire somebody else. So it comes with that, but I'm not going to be the one who takes it two steps further ahead just for the money. It's not about the money for me. It's about being responsible. Obviously, there's more to that story. As to what I then did. But that's not really for the podcast. Things are now in place, shall we say, to protect that person. But I just wanted to talk about the sort of the tracing sort of side of things and how it fits into the process serving, and which then it fits into other sort of sides of business, like tracking down people who live in rented property, for example. You'll get people who rent property and then disappear, and then money's owed. So actually you do the tracing, then you do the process serving, then you may well do the enforcement sort of side of things. So I'm a person of many hats, which will lead lovely into my next story, which is Moan of the Month. However, before we go into Moan of the Month, I'm just going to tell another little story about last month. So like I say, the sponsor of the show is Blue Husky. Now, I keep spelling it out just because there's no E in it. It's BLUHUSKI, Blue Husky. Now, normally at this point, when you get a sponsor, you read something out and it sounds a bit unnatural. And I know that when I listen to other people's podcasts, I just skip this bit. So the way I'm going to do it is, when I joined the private investigation after leaving the police, which is actually 7 years ago next week. I asked around and sort of said, where'd you get your trackers from, this, that, and the other. And Blue Husky 7 years ago was recommended to me as a supplier. So they supply a lot of the PIs out there. So, like I said before, I'm not going to shy away from it. I have tried out other companies and used their trackers with varying degrees of success. Now, last month, the app that you use to obviously look at the tracker to see where it is, lifetime and also historically, actually went down because it's a different company that make the tracker app. However, Blue Husky have their own app. So when all the trackers went down last month, Blue Huskies was fine because they have their own app. So you jump on their app and there was no loss. So if that's not another positive reason why to buy your trackers from Blue Husky, then what is? If you buy anything from Blue Husky, they don't just supply trackers. Like I said last month, I buy the one that is completely sealed because there is occasion where I've had water damage to one of my trackers. So now I use the completely sealed one. It does charge slightly slower than the one where you plug in the charging advice. So it's horses for courses, but they do other ranges of PI equipment. So if you do go to their shop, at this particular moment in time, they're not offering a discount, but when you buy something from Blue Husky, there's a little comments box. So just do me a favor. If you buy anything from Blue Husky, just put anything that you want to regarding either says, Nathan says hello, or got your details from the podcast guy, or Diary of a Private Investigator is awesome, or anything. Just so Mike, who owns Blue Husky, knows that I'm sending business his way, and then hopefully he might just give me a big warm hug and carry on sponsoring the show. So that's Blue Husky for you. Right. Final bit, moan of the month. What were we talking about? We were talking about wearing many hats, weren't we? So, moan of the month. Being told how to do my job. Now, I'm sure this hits a chord with a lot of people out there who have a trade, have a skill set, and then get told how to do their job. So, I've had a customer in the past who... It started off great. Everything was going fine, and then we hit a bit of a snag. That involves. Without going into too much detail, let's just say that the information that I have been given as to where this person is and at what time they are leaving the address doesn't marry up to the fact that me and another operative are on plot. We've got the exit covered, and this person is not seen to leave, and the client comes back to the address and then sort of says, they've gone. Like, how have you missed them? So there's a bit of a discussion that goes on about, well, not being funny, that we started this time, the intelligence is start at this time, cover the exits, they're gonna walk out of the address and they're gonna go and catch the bus. I'm 100% adamant that at the time that we started work, after that time, that person did not walk out and catch the bus. So then the client turns around and sort of says, well, they must have, I don't think they left before the start time, which is why I give you the start time. So you must have missed them. And then the client drops out in conversation that maybe their brother had picked them up in a car, to which I turn around and sort of say, well, the intelligence was that this person leaves on foot. You've never told me the possibility. When I give you the form and sort of say, tell me everything about everything, you never mentioned any kind of vehicles or anything like that. The intelligence is always that they'll leave at this time on foot. So we're having a bit of, obviously, we both have valid points, shall we say, about why the operation went wrong. So there's a couple of other red flags involved. But anyway, so because I'm obviously told before it starts, be very, very careful. This person is very, very switched on. Don't get caught. So obviously in my head, I'm thinking, right, well, okay, we need to be carefuler? More carefuler. I tell you, I invent words. You need to get Oxford Dictionary, listen to this podcast. We need to be more careful than the average bear. So when you do your surveillance, obviously you park up at a distance. As I've said in the past, you don't park up bang outside the address. So he starts saying to me, you need to have parked there, right outside the exit. And I'm sort of saying, well, no, because tactically that's not what you do, because if this person comes out, they'll see the vehicle, they'll make a mental note, like I've said in times many, I don't know if I made this bit up, but the rule of 3 about if you see something, it sits in the back of your head. And then if you see it again, you think, oh, actually, have I seen that before? And then if they see it again, like the next day or in town or wherever, they're like, actually, that's the vehicle parked outside my house. And so I'm explaining and saying, look, tactically speaking, this is why I parked where I parked, and it still gives me a vantage point. And he's like, no, you're doing it wrong. What you should have done is you should have parked there, and instead of hiding in the back of your vehicle, you should have sat up front, because that gives you a better view. And I'm like 101 surveillance, you don't sit in the front with obviously your cup of coffee and your donut, like I used to do in the CID, sort of sit there on display, because they're going to see me. And this person's sort of saying, well, it don't matter if they see you, because what you should have done is you should have worn a baseball cap so they can't see your face. And then when you follow them into town, you take your baseball cap off. And I'm like, that's genius. Why didn't I think of that? Why did I not think about having a change of clothing? I was like, that's brilliant. I've only done this for, well, like I said, 7 years since leaving cops and doing it for a few years in the cops. I'm like, oof, I never thought about changing my clothing. That's some top drawer stuff. That I'm like, obviously I'm slightly sarcastic there. I'm sort of thinking, what? And then this person drops out. When I was following my partner, I had a reversible coat and a hat, and I did it that way. And I'm like, that's good, that, yeah. So now what you're telling me is you're not telling me how to do my job by having a reversible coat. Actually, what you're telling me is that you've attempted surveillance in the past, possibly, probably, maybe got caught, because let's face it, this person lives with you, and I'm not being funny, but if I followed my wife and I put my baseball cap on and my dark glasses and my coat, I've got a funny feeling that she'd still spot me and think, why is Nathan stood over there following me, even though I'm wearing a baseball cap and dark glasses? And this is what you get in this industry. You will get drip-fed information, drip-fed, and then you've got to be aware of the red flags, the little things that you pick up on. And I'd like to think I'm intelligent. I pick up on things like that. People say things, and I'm like, oh, actually, so basically what you're telling me that you've only brought me in because you've been caught, and now you expect me to be all singing, all dancing, and you're giving me mixed messages about be super, super careful, be very, very careful, don't get caught whatever you do. And then the next breath saying, well, actually, what you need to do is park bang outside the address. So that job kind of, well, let's see where that job goes, to be fair. We're kind of still debating as to whether we're going to continue or not. But yeah, I love it. I'm not telling you how to do your job, but this is what you need to do. Oh, okay then, cheers. Anyway, that was moan of the month. So I might just continue that, because to be fair, I am of an age now where I like to piss and moan. I quite like it. I'm going to moan about everything. So that has been, I have absolutely no idea how long this has gone on for, but hopefully that's on schedule. So that has been Diary of a Private Investigator, episode 14. Thank you for listening. Quick recap. If you've not left a review of the podcast, please leave a review, because it does help listener figures. It does help me get more popular. And yes, I do want to be super famous talking into a microphone to myself once a month. If you do like the podcast, feel free to send me a question or a story to diaryofaprivateinvestigator@gmail.com. And if you do feel sorry for me and want me to drink more coffee, buymeacoffee.com/DOAPI. I've been Nathan, you've been the listeners. Thanks ever so much.